Hey guys, welcome back. JebSmith here. Today I have a special guest, Shaheedah Hill, who is a real estate agent in the Atlanta metro area. A lot of you guys have probably come across her content on YouTube. She has an awesome channel, which I've linked to in the description below, but she covers a lot of topics that you guys follow on my channel as well, like the housing market, a lot of content out there for first-time home buyers, FHA loans. And, I brought Shaheedah on for a couple of reasons. One, I recently asked who you guys wanted me to collaborate with, and she was a name that came up quite a bit. And so that was one of them. But also, she does a lot of business in her market, working with FHA buyers. And I think, you guys follow me and know what's going on in California, but I think in order to educate you and guide you through the real estate process, you should also understand what's happening across the United States, right? Because all real estate is local. And I think as as the real estate market becomes quote unquote more normal, it's helpful to know what's happening across the board. So Shaheedah, thank you for being here. Anything you want to say to get started, let's hear it.
No, thank you, Jeb, for having me. I know we do share probably some people. I know I think YouTube, a lot of people during the pandemic ran to YouTube for information because the market changed so drastically and so quickly. What you could afford, you no longer can afford. When you could do FHA and sellers loved it and didn't mind, now they want it conventional. So I think, this is a great opportunity for us to collaborate, being on the East Coast and the West Coast, as to what sellers are looking for in this new market. The market has changed, it's changing again, I feel like, because people have hit that affordability wall to say, like, I'm just not doing it. Right. I'm happy to be here and I'm great. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to some of your subscribers as well.
No, absolutely. And if you find this content helpful today, go over to her channel and check out some videos, hit the subscribe button and help share the wealth there. So, let's talk about some things that are happening in the market, right? I mean, we talked prior to coming on here, a large percentage of your clientele, your buyers are first-time home buyers, just entering the market. And, they came into, the market a year ago, and affordability, your average price, you can talk about it here, but things have changed, right? And now affordability is becoming an issue. So what are you seeing happen right now in your market? Is it slowing down? Is supply increasing? What's happening with demand? Just kind of give us an overview of what you think is going on or what is going on, and then maybe an idea of what you're expecting over the next, say, 5-6 months in your market.
Okay. So right now we're in the prime time of the market, May, June, July. School starts back for us in August. So a lot of people are looking for homes and trying to be in homes, but before school starts. So there is still a high demand for housing. It's still very low inventory, but we are seeing a little bit of pushback on the pricing, where people just want to wait for a little while. So we don't have the June data out yet because right now it's June 28th, but I anticipate in the June data from the Association of Realtors for Georgia, that are going to see a little bit, fewer homes closed, a little bit of pushback because people have hit, for the most part, an affordability wall where they could afford, based on their salary, right? They could afford a certain, price point, and that price point has become, number one, hard to find. And if you do find it, there are multiple other people that want that same house. So, anything in the 200s to 300s, where last year our average price was probably in the 250s, 260s, 270s. Now it's I wrote it down. Now we're at 342. That's our average price point in Metro Atlanta. So it's kind of moved where your salary hasn't changed that much, but your the housing price has changed a lot. So you have a lot to look at. Do you want to go? Some people can go to the higher price, but they were more comfortable at that 200 or so, mid to high 200 price point. They're trying to say, do I want to go there? And if I do go there, is my house going to be worth it? Is it going to appraise? Or, the sellers are asking, we were talking about this earlier. Now sellers are telling you what they want. They want no finance contingency. They want no appraisal contingency. They want all of these things. And so after you've been looking for a little while, it kind of, you just don't want to deal with it anymore. So a lot of people are taking a break. They're trying to see, okay, let me see what happens in the fall. Let me see what happens in the winter. So there's still demand, but I think for the most part, a lot of my buyers, first-time buyers, are saying, let me wait a little bit and let me see how the market is going to go, because I don't want to be at the top of my price point. And then perhaps if the market changes, then my home is worth less than what I paid for it.
Got it. Yeah. So some things that you said make me think, right? So
Right.
your average price went up, what, from mid 250s
Yeah,
to
250s to 60s. Our increase is about 27% over May of last year.
So 27%, huge increase right
huge.
now. So is that because a lot of people are blaming states like California, states like New York, states that had higher prices, if you will, and because of the equity gains and all of this across the board, these people have and different things happening in different states, people leaving California for politics, people leaving big cities like New York because it's so dense and people want to get to more rural locations so that they don't have to deal with another outbreak, so to speak. Do you feel like it's people moving from these areas to Georgia, like this migration pattern, if you will, that's driving up prices? Or is it the drop in interest rates and the low supply of people that have lived in Atlanta or Metro or out on the outskirts of some of these areas and said, you know what, I can now afford more home, even though prices have gone up $100,000 or so.
Mm-hmm.
I can now actually afford more home than I could a year ago because of where interest rates are, and that's driving it? Or is it just a combination of everything?
All of the above. That's what I was going to say. It's a combination of everything. That is a big push that a lot of people from the North, a lot of people from California, a lot of people have come to Atlanta because we were known as kind of the discount. You know, you can find a big house for a low cost. Let me give you an example. I have a client that wants to list their house, and I was calling the other agent because it's under contract. And I was trying to see, okay, what is it under contract for, so I can get some comps. And I talked to the selling agent or the buyer's agent, and I said, what are you guys under contract for? Are you at list price? Are you higher? And this is like in the they were listed at $599. They're under contract for $610. And I said, well, how are you able to get it? She's like, oh, my buyer's coming from New York. They waived the appraisal contingency. They don't even care what it appraises because they know there's no way they can even have, half the house in New York. So a lot of people are saying, where our buyers, there were two other buyers that lost out on the house that were local, but they couldn't compete with not, waiving an appraisal contingency that could come in, $30,000 difference where they're just like, I'll pay for it. So I think that the choice that people have to work remotely has been huge, that they could move into these cities without, having to go back into Atlanta or go back. So they're moving closer to the suburbs. And the other thing big is investors. Investors are buying up every what we call affordable house. So between 200,000 and 250,000. So anything lower than 100,000, they've already bought. But a major investor came in and bought up they're buying like the rest of subdivisions or townhome communities. So they're coming in, buying those, and a lot of these hedge funds. So they're buying those. So even, I could let me tell you this, there'll be a surprise to you. Like prior to August of 2019, a client called me and said, I want to buy a house. And she wasn't approved yet and all of that. So we got her approved, whatever. She was approved for $97,000. Now, I know you're looking like 97,000. Where the trailers at? Like, where is she looking for 97,000? And at the time, I was like, that's going to be a challenge. But I took her on as a client. And we found a townhome, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, new carpet, all appliances for $97,000. That was in August of 2019. I did a video with her on my channel at the time. Now, if somebody was to call me today and say, I got approved for $97,000. That was maybe 30 minutes from Atlanta. I would say, I just can't help you. I cannot help you because you're going to be up against multiple investors that want to buy that house cash. You're going to be on it multiple. So there's a price point that's not even worth an agent even working with a client because they know, especially if they're being financed, what they're up against. And she was financed. She was down payment assistance, all of those things. And she was able to get the house. And no competition. I think they had an offer that fell through. We were the next offer, but it wasn't multiple offers. It wasn't 20 offers. It wasn't cash, So the market has, when I say drastically changed, it's drastically changed. So some of our low income people that could have gotten a house in 2019, they're out of the market 100%, because investors have bought any property, I would say, under 200,000 with the purpose of renting it out and long-term rentals. So, and they've moved up to, I would say, 250,000 where they're renting those out.
Got it. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of time to think
Okay.
while I ask you the next question.
Right.
You're gonna be talking and you're gonna whatever, but we're gonna talk about some things maybe that first time home buyers maybe can do in your market. Like,
Right.
what are you telling them at the moment? But we're going to come back to that in just a second here. But I want to say, so, there's a lot of headlines at the moment, right? You turn on the news, you read any sort of housing blog, Wall Street Journal, Housing Wire, any of them. Demand is decreased, right? The last 5 months we've seen, home buyer demand as the U.S. has declined month over month over month.
Right.
Now, I have my beliefs about it, and that's one thing. But if home buyer demand is declining, in theory, you're going to see a supply increase, right? So supply is going to increase over the next couple of months, based on that. So if you do see an increase in supply and some pullback in demand in your market, do you think home prices are going to pull back? And nobody's going to hold you to this. Just,
Right.
what are your thoughts on it? And even then, do you think if you see that, is that just going to welcome more investors back into the market? Because, these investors are looking for opportunities, and, a decline in prices might mean, more people on the sidelines waiting to jump back in. I mean, what are
Right.
your thoughts on the housing market at the moment?
Right. I think if the demand is still there, like I said, I think people are just waiting on the sidelines to see if there's going to be some more opportunity for them. Because what I tell my first time buyers, you have to have some cash. You can't just have your pre-approval, and you can't just have your, closing costs. Like, you've got over that hump. The beginning of the pandemic, they still wanted closing costs. And so we got over the hump on, they're not going to, you have to have all your closing costs. You have to have all of, you have to have your down payment, of course, but you have to have your closing costs. They don't want to look at anything with down payment assistance. So now that we're over that hurdle, the hurdle is now, what can you do above appraised value? What can you do? So that's like the next tier for them to get comfortable with. And I think there wasn't a comfort level 100%. Some of my clients that had a lot of cash on hand, they were like, okay, yes, we'll do 5,000 over. We'll do, not to waive the entire appraisal gap. I haven't had that yet, but I have had, people do 10,000 over, 5,000 over, depending on the price point. And they, their willingness to stay in the home. That's another thing. I'm asking them, like, how long do you plan on staying here? Because I don't want you paying anything above appraised value. You're going to sell it, next year. We don't know where prices are going to be next year. Right. So really talking them through that. So you need to have cash above your down payment, above your closing costs. You have to have cash on hand if you're in a competitive situation. There are some things, the strategy I've been using with some people. Let's look at the things that have been on the market more than 5 days, more than a week, more, because they may be more willing to give you some closing costs, there's less competition there. So, those are some strategies you can use. But for the most part, if there's a move-in ready home, you're still going to have multiple people. I'll give you another example where I think there's a little bit of the turn is happening, where some homes in our market that are below, say, 400,000 may have gotten like 15 offers. Now they're getting 7 offers. So a lot of people have pulled back a little bit. We've had agents, I'm sure you're on part of like a lot of agent Facebook groups. And so I am as well. And a lot of them are saying, do you see the shift in the market? I was on the market for 2 days and I only got 7 offers, and that would be great in a normal market.
Right.
But like, there's like, no, before, people are lining up and all of that. A lot of the listing agents, and I have a listing now, I do them less than buyers, but their expectation was, you get 20, 25 offers. Now to get 7 offers over a couple of days, it's like, wow, I only got 7 offers. And they wound up going with an FHA offer. So I think in Atlanta, at least, there is like less of a franticness to say, okay, I need to get a house now. I need to get a house. I need to waive my contingencies. So, I think as we get to the fall, when school starts, I think we'll feel one little bump. And I think as we get to the fall and winter, there'll be another bump. But I agree with you. The investors are already out here. When you list a home, you'll get at least one investor offer, and then you'll get, regular offers. In my brokerage, agents were saying, where are the buyers? Because all they were getting were investor offers. So, they would get multiple offers from investors and no offers from buyers, or maybe one or two. So investors are in the market big time. I think they'll continue to be there, but sometimes because investors have no face necessarily, if you get those investor offers and people don't really know what's behind it. And a lot of investors, sometimes they'll send an offer, it's sight unseen, they haven't seen the property. Then they come and they bring their, not contractors, but they'll bring, their inspectors. They'll come in and they'll drop the price they're going to offer you by maybe 10, 15, 5 to 10%. And a lot of agents have gotten used to that, and they tell their sellers that, this offer on paper looks good. It's a cash offer. They can close quickly. But a lot of times during the inspection part of it, they reduce their offer. So the initial offer is good, but a lot of times during the inspection, they reduce their offer. So we have things like Ribbon and some of the lease to own companies that have become really big in Atlanta right now that allow buyers. The price point is $350 is the max, but they can change their offer into cash. So they're able to put a cash offer to compete with the investors, but you are going to have to pay. It's a little bit confusing, but if your lender can close the deal before the closing date, then you pay them about 1%. If they have to fund the deal, these companies, if they have to fund the deal, then they charge you like 2.5%. So some of the first time buyers that couldn't compete have moved to some of those programs to turn their offers into cash.
Got it. Yeah. No, I mean, we talked about that, when we were kind of prepping for the call initially,
right.
Some of these, as the market changes, you start to see companies come into the market that are there to, help in some ways. I use help, air quotes. I mean, you can take it however you want, but they're allowing home buyers to make cash offers in some ways because it is so competitive out there. And here in California, I have people, and even comment on my videos, people reach out to me or what have you and say, you know what? Like who is making these cash offers? Who's behind all of this?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in some cases, it's companies like this that are coming to the market and drive, and continuing to help home buyers get into properties, which is pushing property values up.
Mm-hmm.
But you said something a moment ago that made me think. Now you said, where a property might have 20 offers on it, today it might have 7. And so I've talked about this in videos that I've done. And do you think it's because there's just less demand out there? Or do you think maybe because now there's more supply across the board, maybe a little bit more supply, those 20 offers are now spread across multiple properties versus just focused on one? Or do you really truly think that demand has dropped off during this time?
I think demand, I'm going to change demand to desire. I think demand has dropped off a little bit, but the desire has not dropped off. People still desire to be in a house, but they're not willing to fight for it, if that makes sense. So, we've gotten to the point when you're taking I know some agents that won't even take anybody under 300,000 because they know the competitiveness of the market right now that you're going to spend. And a lot of agents, I was going to do a video. We probably both need to do a video on this. Why some agents don't want to work with you. Because if you think about it, right, you're getting, and I think a lot of buyers don't think about this, is that it takes a lot more time, effort to work with somebody at a lower price point. And that's maybe a first time buyer at a lower price point. Then if I want to become a luxury agent, I can make, much more money, right? Mm-hmm. And this person is probably not a first time home buyer. They probably have some, know about what's going on. So a lot of agents have increased their price point to say, okay, I know in this market, it's going to take me forever to find you a house at 275, whatever area. But if I go up to maybe 400,000, there's more inventory, 400 to 500 or 400 to 600. There's more inventory and there's more of a chance I can get this offer approved because you probably have a little bit more cash, a little bit more flexibility. So I think a lot of first time home buyers, they still desire it, but they're not willing to fight for it as much. Like the people that were willing to fight probably already got their house.
No, I mean,
So,
there's a lot of truth to that. And, I mean, as somebody who does a lot of first time home buyer content like yourself,
right.
I mean, obviously we want to work with first time home
Yes.
buyers. That is part of what we love about the profession
Right.
and getting people into homes. But there becomes this, this threshold, if you will, where it's tough. And it's not
Yeah.
because we don't want to work with first
Mhm.
time home buyer. It's just, there's literally nothing in a certain price point. I mean,
Yeah.
California recently put out a stat that, the homes under $500,000 in the state of California had declined significantly over the last couple of months.
Right.
Well, it's because there are none. I mean, it's not because
There's
there's a
none.
lack of people to buy them. It's just there are no homes under 500,000, and that
Right.
seems crazy to people
Mhm.
watching, probably, especially in
Right.
Atlanta. They're going
Right.
500 grand.
Yeah. Oh
Who's
yeah.
buying that?
Who's
But
buying that? Right.
yeah, there's a lot of people. And 500,000 where I'm from, it gets you maybe a
Nothing.
2-bedroom condo.
Ton of.
Maybe. I mean, it's crazy. So it's, we obviously want to help. And
Right.
what I'd ask, if you're watching this video right now and you're a first-time home buyer, what are topics Shaheedah and I can cover that
That
you
you want to
find
hear.
helpful? Because I think that is something that obviously we've built these channels to educate home buyers, all home buyers. And so
Right.
we obviously want to be able to help in any way we can. So, we'll keep this short.
Okay.
We're just over 20 minutes or so right at the
Okay.
moment. So if someone were looking to buy at the moment, first time home buyer, what's the best advice you would give? And I'm not saying you need to tell them whether to buy now. It's like,
Right.
well, what do they need to do? They obviously need to be, what I tell people, you got to be pre-approved.
Mhm.
I mean, you mentioned earlier, you've got to have money for a down payment, potentially
Mhm.
closing cost in this market. So things like that. What are you telling first-time home buyers in this market if they're looking to purchase?
Right. So the same, pre-approved, have your closing costs, have your down payment money. And then I started doing this at the end of last year. So I don't take any client without doing a market consult with them. So I need them to know as much as I know about the market, because sometimes there's a disconnect between what they think they can buy and what they actually can buy. So, like you said, you might get a buyer that's 500,000. You have to tell them there are no homes, and if one home does come on the market under 500,000, this is what it's probably going to look like. This is how many offers it's probably going to get. So, what I started doing was when they tell me what area they want to be in, and after they're pre-approved, we go look on the MLS, and I look at, okay, this is what's in the market for that price point, and I look at anything that's closed in the last 30 days. And then we go over, let's see did it close conventional? Did it close FHA? Did it close cash? So they can see that. Did the seller pay closing costs? So I'm going over all of that with them. And then we're saying, okay, and this is your position. So now you have to be prepared to do this. You have to be prepared with no closing costs. You have to be prepared that only, 2 homes have sold, the FHA. So you're going to be competitive. Can you get conventional financing? So they're going to be just as educated in the market as me, or close,
Right.
because of what the area they want to be in. So then there's not as much frustration, because there's a lot of frustration with, well, why'd they get that house? Or I offered, because when it closes, they'll say, I offered more than them and they took their offer. Sometimes they will take the offer just because they feel like it's stronger. That, they're putting 20% down. It was conventional. Yours was FHA and you're putting down 3.5%. Building that in so they understand a seller wants to go with the most money, but also the less risk. So when you are an FHA buyer, they see that as risk sometimes, that this may not close or it may not go through, or you don't have as much money in the deal, then you might walk away from certain things easier than other people. So the education part is very big. I think, when clients come to us, they watch some of our videos already.
Yeah,
So I feel like they're educated. But the education part will stop frustration, because a lot of times people they're watching too much HGTV to see, okay.
I was actually just going to lead
Gonna
into
say
that.
Yeah. This is what we said. I want to start doing these videos. I have an Atlanta channel. This is what $300,000 gets you in Atlanta, because some people are waiting for, new construction, quartz countertops, a big backyard, and it's not there. And they don't understand, just the economy. If I don't have to sell it for 300,000, why would I?
Right.
If I get 350, and I think it's because they haven't been a seller before. So they're frustrated saying, well, why won't they just sell it to me for this? They listed it for this. Why don't they take it for the list price? It's because if they can get more, and I think that's what they have to get through their heads. Maybe I'll try to compare it to their car. If you had, 10 people wanted to buy your car and you listed it, say on Facebook Marketplace for $10,000, but somebody was offering you, 12,000 or 15,000, would you say, oh, I only offered 10? No, you would go to that $15,000 person and start focusing on how strong that offer was. And if it was cash, you would probably say, I'll close with you tomorrow, instead of waiting 30 days for your financing to come through. So, from the seller side, it's all about, who can give me the most money, and sometimes who can close the fastest.
No, and you said a couple things there that we'll end on that
Yes.
made me think, and no, it's all good stuff. But I often tell buyers, put yourself in the seller's shoes.
Yes.
Put yourself in the seller's shoes. This is your offer, but let's think. Let's do some hypothetical situations, if you will, and say, hey, if the seller had these offers, what do you think they would go with? And this is not to shame a buyer or whatever, but it's to put things in perspective, because, people need to understand, what they're offering and how it is portrayed in this environment, in this market. And another thing you said that made me think is people, sellers or people buy emotionally and they justify logically, right? So education is very, very important in this market. And when I asked you that question a moment ago, what I heard you say is work with a professional.
Yes.
Because you're taking the time to go through a home buyer that you haven't necessarily agreed to work with yet, and educate them on the market of what they should expect in this environment by showing them, hey, listen, at your price point, this is what you get. This is, the closing costs that were offered from the seller, if there were any. These are the types of loans, and putting that back on them, saying, okay, if that's what you could get, is that something you would consider? And some of those people are going to say no, but you've taken the time now to educate them, which is very, very important. But you also might have people that say, yeah. And I think the barrier to entry, I say this all the time, in real estate is very, very low. So there's a lot of agents out there. I think I just watched a video this morning, 1.5 million real estate agents in the United States, the most we've ever had.
More real estate agents than listings.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And so there's a lot of people running around that don't truly know what they're doing. So working with a professional is definitely key. And with that said, if you're looking in the Atlanta metro area, you want a great agent, Shaheedah, her contact information will be below. You can check out her YouTube channel as well. Get some guidance on the market if you're looking in that market. But any parting words, anything you want to say to people out there, where to follow you, any of that good stuff?
Yeah, please follow me at Shaheedah Hill Real Estate on YouTube. I think Jeb is going to put it below. This should be on my channel as well. I've enjoyed it. I would say that changing your real estate agent does not change the market, because sometimes, let's talk about having been a buyer before. I'm like, okay, go. Because they think that they change real estate agents. Sometimes that'll get them, the house of their dreams for, a low price point. But it's really, that's why I started the market consults, to really see, are we on the same page? Because if we're not, you can't find another agent that might, think that they can find you that. But I just, it's good not to waste time. So if you guys are agents, definitely agents, get those market consults done. And then as buyers, try to, want to be educated in the market. What does it look like? What is days on the market? Are most people conventional? Are most people that? And you'll be on the seller side at some point, and you'll know, when you have, buyers coming to you, it'll be the same thing. It's your biggest investment. You're trying to make the most money as possible. Usually you don't know what those people, some people it's their retirement. Some people, I've had, divorced couples, and they're splitting the money and that's all they have. They're really trying to make the most money, and this is the time to do it. So they're taking advantage of it. So like you said, I love that idea of saying, okay, if you were the seller, would you accept this versus this? So it's great information, Jeb.
No, absolutely. So thank you guys for watching. If you made it, you've been here 30 minutes. We appreciate you guys being here. Check out Shaheedah on her channel, and let us know what you think in the comments below. Any questions, we'll be happy to address them, but we appreciate you being here. Appreciate your time. Hope to see you again soon. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.